welcome to the X Factor podcast. Today I am joined by Dr. Marina Badillo-Diaz from New York City. Dr. Badillo-Diaz, is the founder of the AI Social Worker, where she designs and implements virtual and on-site training workshops for social workers on the use of generative AI and its applications in their work practice. She is also an adjunct professor at NYU, Columbia, and the University of Kentucky. Hey, Marina, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Charles. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I really do need to ask you about juggling these three adjunct gigs. It sounds like quite a lot. But I need to begin because when we first spoke, you told me that born and bred in Boca Raton, yes?
Actually born in New Jersey, but definitely lived in Boca for middle school and high school. So my family
Oh,
moved down south. Yes.
okay. Very nice. And as I mentioned, and as some of our audience may know,
Yes.
I've been down here in Boca Raton for a little over 20 years. So I need to ask you.
hmm
I mean, you can opt out of this question if you so choose, but I don't think you're going to.
No.
So, what is the single best and the single worst thing about living in Boca Raton? And there are no
Yeah.
penalties for the wrong answer, Marina.
Well, I appreciate that. And I certainly don't want to offend anybody either, because I know there's certainly folks who love living in Boca. But you see here, I did not stay in Boca. As soon as I finished high school, I left and I went to school in New York City and stayed ever since. So I think for me, I think one of the worst things about living in Boca, for me, was about like, I'm a city person. I love the accessibility of just going out, in coffee shops, restaurants, the culture, the public transportation, all the things that city life has to offer. And for me, that I think that's one of my least favorite things about Boca. I think my favorite thing about Boca, though, is because I lived up north for all these years, I I really don't like the snow. And it's just so much easier living in South Florida, Boca, when you can just literally walk outside your house. You don't have to worry about like shoveling the snow or just all the things that come with the changes of season. And certainly it's a beautiful town, and the weather is really
Yeah,
quite nice. So those are the
yeah,
things that I do
no,
miss about Boca.
uh, I agree. Again, I've been down here for over 20 years by way of New York, more specifically Long
Yeah.
Island. I still have, I have a walk-in closet in another room here,
hmm
and I still easily have a half of that closet of all of my winter stuff. I can't bring myself to talk. I just can't, you
No, I
know.
get it. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
by the way, I still have my 516 area
Oh,
code, which is Long Island, of course. And
yes.
down here, as you know, it's 561. So my standard
Mhm. Mhm.
joke is to tell people, I show them or give them my number or tell them my number. I actually used to give them my business card, and they look
Yeah.
at it, and I said, no, it's not a misprint. That's actually my handy
Right.
dyslexia test. So
Yeah.
if you get that right, you're good.
Yeah.
It,
And you know what? I've still kept my 561 number from Boca. So all these years, I've moved to New York, they're like 561, not five, and it's not 516. It's 561 from South
Hard
Florida.
to give this up. It's part of our identity, you know?
Yes. Oh, I
Who knew
know.
we were going to cling so tenaciously to our area codes? It's weird.
I know. I know. It's a
Anyway,
thing.
by the way, you're not missing a lot. New York this time of year is actually really very special.
It is.
And I used to
Mhm.
go up every year with the family. I haven't been in a couple of years. I got to get back into the
Mhm.
habit. Just not the same
I know.
Christmas and the holidays down here, Christmas
Yeah.
lights when it's 80 degrees out. It just doesn't make sense.
You're right. That is definitely something that's a bit unusual when you grow up in a place like Boca is you're decorating palm trees and not evergreen trees. Like it's just
No,
different.
no, no,
Yeah.
doesn't
Doesn't do
compute.
it justice. No.
Doesn't compute. Anyway,
Hmm.
again, thanks for making time for me for the podcast. I really do appreciate it. So, you spent the first 15 years of your career as a school administrator and counseling director,
Mhm.
elementary and middle school social worker, and clinical worker in community mental health. You've
Yeah.
since focused training or
Mhm.
on training social workers, and more recently on training them to use AI in their practice. I want to ask you why the pivot from actually doing social work to training, but I'm curious, particularly your experience in elementary and
Mhm.
middle school, from a
Yeah.
social work standpoint. What were some of the typical issues that
Yeah.
arose? Like the two or three top issues. I'm curious.
Yeah. So certainly, I spent majority of my career working with youth and families, both from a clinical community mental health practice and then also in the school setting. So certainly with youth, I come from working in a very high trauma, area and population working here in New York City. So I think definitely some of the common big struggles that our families and students were really struggling with, or my clients, were really just trauma histories, child abuse, neglect, ACS involvement. I was working in a very high trauma, population in my work here in New York City. So that was certainly one of the top struggles of the families that I had been working with. And I want to also say like poverty as well, like just access to resources, housing, unstable housing, and that still is
Yes.
a chronic problem here in many communities here in New York City too. And so, even though I was seeing that in the clinical practice realm, I was also seeing that in the school social work practice as well too. Because then here I'm working with families every day in public city and charter schools in New York City, which are public schools as well too. So those are some of the top challenges that our families would face. Another, just topic that would come up a lot, and certainly with like middle schoolers and elementary schoolers, this is just what would come up a lot in my counseling office too, was just the pure conflict and challenges of just making friends and just every day, just sort of issues of just getting along. But then also you bring in the role of social media and that as well too. So I was seeing that a lot with especially the middle schoolers navigating the online space, social media, posting this, and then coming into the school, and then kind of creating a lot of challenges and issues, with their peers in the class. So that was definitely coming up a lot in my practice as well too, when working in schools.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So, why the pivot from actually
Yeah.
being out doing social work and now doing the training?
Mm-hmm. So, as I mentioned, right, high trauma, high need, that is just a recipe for burnout as a social worker.
Sure.
And I'm not alone. The social work field really struggles with being overworked, underpaid, working with marginalized communities that need the most support and care. And yet there's so few of us with high caseloads and a high demand. So when I was working in clinical mental health, I would have caseloads of up to 48 families full time doing clinical work of individual family sessions. Then I transitioned right to the school where I was the only middle school social worker for hundreds of students. That's not uncommon for school social workers. We're often, one to hundreds of students. Same thing as school counselors. It's a real crisis across the country. Uh, and so for me, experiencing that plus going into COVID, right? COVID also brought challenges for everyone in the school system of being able to pivot from being in person and online, being a school administrator at the time. It really was a recipe for I'm burning out and I need a change in my career. So from there, I really pivoted outside of the school system, wanted to still remain as part of the school system and doing trainings and support. And I felt that this has really given me a great balance of doing the work that I love to support schools while also doing it more on my terms with a schedule that works for me along with teaching. And the pivot to AI in particular has been really definitive because of my consulting work, because I'm teaching. ChatGPT came on the scene in the fall of 2022. It just celebrated its 3-year birthday, ChatGPT, this past weekend. You know, I started playing around with it in the spring of 2023. So it still was a couple months afterwards, right? 6 months out. And for me, when I started using ChatGPT, I was like, wow, this could help me so much of my everyday tasks, helping me out with my consulting contracts, training, teaching. I was doing social emotional learning programming in the schools and supporting. And it was transformative to my practice to really help me with burnout and reducing burnout and helping me feel that I can get more things done, being more efficient, being more creative. And I thought, this is my pivot. This is going to transform the work of school social workers and school counselors, and also just social workers and mental health clinicians just as a whole. And that really has been my mission since I started this work of trainings in the fall of 2023, to really bring this knowledge and information to my field and to really help transform their practice so they don't feel burnt out like I did and I was feeling, in which I pivoted and changed. And it's been such a pleasure and an incredible experience to really help folks in my field really change their practice with this technology.
Excellent. Excellent. So when we spoke in the lead up to this, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the resistance
Yeah.
to AI, specifically generative AI, among
Mm-hmm.
social workers. What
Yeah.
exactly are they opposed to? What are the issues?
Yeah. So, when I first started using ChatGPT, I was like, this is a no brainer. This is something I could definitely incorporate into my everyday work, even my personal life too, right? I was using it for a lot of different things as well, for making recipes, like doing different
Right.
things, right? As a personal assistant. However, I knew as a social worker in my profession, we really care deeply about ethics and we care deeply about marginalized communities. We know that tech has harmed marginalized communities. There's a whole history of that. So I knew there was going to be resistance. I know social workers really care about environmental justice. They have grave concerns about AI and how it's impacting water usage, communities, and how there's going to be even exponentially more of an environmental degradation and impact because of artificial intelligence. So that's been another area of resistance. Another piece too is just, and this is not just social work, but a lot of fields are grappling, am I going to be replaced by AI? And I think that's a real fear for a lot of professionals. And I feel very fortunate to be in the social work field and working with education because we are such a human centered profession. I do wholeheartedly feel there's always going to be a need for social work practitioners, for mental health providers, even though there's a space for AI to help with a lot of the administrative tasks. There's even therapeutic chatbots that can support with therapy, but I don't think it would ever truly replace the clinical human connection and relationship and experience that we have with clients in our communities that we serve. So I think that's where some of the resistance is coming from, is the anxiety, the worry, the fear, the unknown. And it is hard to pivot with change, and especially with
Sure.
technology. But we've seen this before with the rise of the internet. We've seen, just even changes of just even electricity in society. Like we're seeing these same conversations happen over and over in each generation with new technology advances. And I think we're just in it right now of trying to pivot with this technology too.
Yeah. You know, my sense is that this is a little bit different.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a little bit more comprehensive and it's
Yeah.
happening really, really fast.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting because, yeah, we're celebrating the so called 3 year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was pretty early in
Mm-hmm.
with chat, some of the other tools, et cetera. And I remember having a conversation with several people and they were completely unfamiliar with it. About 2 weeks later, not only were they familiar with it, everybody was.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
spread so fast and just
Yeah.
so broadly. It's amazing. So how do you work with social workers to get them over that anxiety? Because it's not just one source of anxiety. You say it's sort of this
Yeah.
inchoate
Mm-hmm.
mosaic of issues that are causing them to
Yes.
be concerned and anxious.
Yeah. So we have, when you come from the mental health field, social work field, we
By the
always
way,
start.
can a
Yeah.
mosaic be
Yeah.
inchoate? That's a question we need to ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT. But go ahead. I'm
We
sorry.
should.
Okay.
So we have this saying in, the mental health social work field, we meet, clients where they're at. And I certainly have that approach in my trainings, that I really meet social workers where they're at. I really have an approach that's really relational, experiential. I'm all about live demonstrations, showing hands on how you could use this technology for everyday tasks as a social worker. And then I'm a big proponent of building learning community. So in my sessions, to really help break the ice, we share how are people using this technology? What are ways that you're thinking about using it? And to really open up that space that people are actually saying, oh no, like I'm actually using ChatGPT to help me write and create worksheets for my clients. I'm having ChatGPT help me write reports that I have to give in to my director. I'm having ChatGPT help me write emails I have to send out to families. So as we sort of break the ice of really recognizing, oh, I'm not alone in using this, and then people are also seeing, oh, there's other people around me using this as well too. I think this really helps break the barriers of it. Not to say it completely erases all the resistance. It's still really important that we talk about, and as I do in my trainings as well, what are the concerns? What are the ways that we can mitigate some of these risks, especially when it comes to mental health and social work practice, like confidentiality, privacy of data and information, right? These are things that we really care about as social workers. So we talk about the tools that are HIPAA compliant. We talk about if you're going to choose to use a free AI tool to make sure that you are not putting any identifiable information, that you really are intentional about the use of your AI and really checking for bias and accuracies. I really help social workers understand it's not a replacement of your practice. It's really a tool. And you really need to lean into your expertise, your practice experience, your practice wisdom. You need to use all those skills in your critical thinking to always check the AI to make sure it's accurate and that you're not perpetuating bias as well. So, really coming from this human centered place and having it ground in ethics, I think it has really helped social workers move through that resistance, roll with the resistance, still feel right however they're feeling, but at least they're a lot more aware and educated. Because the other piece that social workers are also understanding, even if I'm going to choose not to use it as a practitioner, our clients are using it, right? Millions of people are using ChatGPT every day for their mental health. And so if we want to be really responsive to our clients' needs and our community needs, we have to understand how AI works and how people are using it.
Yeah, I have another question too. That
Mhm.
for is there a fundamental difference? You
Mhm.
do these
Yeah.
sessions both virtually and on site. Is there a fundamental difference how they're structured?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, and I've done both. I've even done hybrid where I'll do something online. There's people in person, and for me, I always welcome tech into the session because it is so experiential. I do built in time for practice. So for me, even if we're in the virtual space, we have breakout rooms. You're given prompts, a whole case scenario. You could practice in real time in a small group using AI, Copilot, Perplexity. I choose intentionally to use free tools out there so everyone is able to at least try in the training sessions. Some agencies have already purchased tools, so I'll incorporate that into the practice. So whether it's virtual or in person, there's always practice, there's always getting the same information, and sometimes even virtual just it makes it even more accessible for folks and they're already on their computer. Sometimes in person we're like, okay, we have to make sure you get your laptop, or we have to make sure we get tech access and all the things and making sure hotspots Wi-Fi is working. So there's been a little tech snafu sometimes with that at conferences. However, but it's both applicable to the in-person and virtual space.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Do you have a go-to
Mm.
tool, or do you use different tools for different reasons?
Yeah. I love this question. I think my go-to always has been ChatGPT, and I do pay for it because I like how it doesn't time me out. It gives me a little bit more privacy and data security with the paid version, but nothing to the level of HIPAA, and HIPAA compliance or FERPA compliance standards. If I need something that's a bit more private, secure, I will turn to my co-pilot that I get access with through my university Microsoft suite. If I need just an extra layer of protection, so I will time to time will use my co-pilot. And then I'm also a big fan of Perplexity. I love it for research, especially as a professor. I need quick information of finding where those resources are coming from. Perplexity has been really great for that. So those I would say are my top three AI applications that I'm using on a regular
Yeah,
basis.
I find that I sort of A/B test I'll
Mm-hmm.
throw something at one, I'll throw similar
Mm-hmm.
prompt at another.
Mm-hmm.
I'll compare and contrast and
Yep.
piece together and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. Although some I use for different reasons
Yeah.
than others. Did we talk in our lead
Mm-hmm.
up about using Gen AI for collaboration? And there was some sort of weird counterintuitive finding about how the quality of collaboration diminishes the
I
more
think so.
people
I think
use these
so.
tools. Did we have that conversation?
I believe so. I believe so. And seeing how, because then working in a collaborative space, that I think you were saying that it kind of diminishes creativity and diminishes like work product. Is that what you were saying? I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
think that yes,
Mhm.
yes, I think
Yeah.
that's what it
Hmm.
was, and it just seemed kind of counterintuitive, or at least why would it do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me in my own experience, um, I've definitely have seen AI be helpful in some group spaces. I've been in meetings where we'll pull up, ChatGPT to double check some information, or we're working on a policy or a document, and so we'll use ChatGPT as like a brain, thought partner and kind of writing some content and editing it. Um, but honestly, the way that I mostly use my AI tools is certainly within my own individual like work time. I'm not always working at using in group settings, because again, I find the group work and group cohesion just brings a lot of creativity, ideas, bouncing off ideas and thought with other experts as well in this too. It's almost like ChatGPT is kind of like that third person in the room, kind of giving you some other ideas. So I don't always rely on AI tools in that sort of group space, but
Yeah,
certainly use it a lot
yeah,
more individually. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But I just remember us having that exchange, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it seemed kind of
Yeah.
again a counterintuitive finding. So, how do you
Yeah.
see the field evolving in the next couple of years as AI becomes more entrenched in our lives
Yeah.
and in our
Yeah.
work?
So, from a social work perspective, I definitely just think of, the macro sort of larger like legislative policy piece, and then community work, and then for individual practitioners. From a macro scale, I hope to see, and I think this will happen. As social workers, we're really trained uniquely to understand human and environment, look at, micro, meso, macro, really care and champion for advocacy of marginalized, vulnerable communities. So I think social workers are going to have a key space in this AI conversation, not just with companies, but also with legislation and policy. We need a lot more safeguards. We need a lot more legislation around protecting consumers, society, around some of the harms that are happening with AI. And I think social workers were capable of leading those conversations and being part of that advocacy and movement in that work. And certainly there's been a number of our NASW, the National Association of Social Work, we have state chapters, and already state chapters across the country are pushing some of this work already. And I'm part of the NASW in New York, and I've been fortunate enough to. I'll be doing a testimonial in the new year on AI and mental health because of the work that I'm doing at the NASW. So my hope is that in the next few years, more of this is going to be happening. I think from a community organization sort of standpoint, I think more and more agencies are going to be purchasing AI tools, embedding it into practice. My hope is that it's going to ease social workers' burdens and case and like work. My worry and concern is that it may drive more work, higher caseloads, because if AI is available to help alleviate writing case notes, help alleviate doing research and connecting to resources, is there going to be a flip instead of it actually saving time and actually, well, not only saving time, but will it, instead of decreasing burnout, would it actually increase on the other end? And I'm seeing a mixture of both happening. I think we're going to have more understanding what that trend's going to be like to come in the next few years. My hope is that it eases burden and it eases burnout, but I guess time will see. And then for the individual practitioner, I think again more integrating of these AI tools. I think seeing AI tools being used with our clients in tandem with our case management services, our clinical services, that will be empowering clients to use this technology to support with their mental health and everyday needs, and that we're going to be part of those sort of in that sort of supportive services that are going to be used as a tool in the work that we do. Yeah.
You mentioned the problem of there being a dearth of social workers. Do you
Yeah.
see AI having any kind of a role in either addressing that in a way where you can automate some of these things and extend what
Yeah.
the individual social worker is doing? So
Hmm. Hmm.
fewer people can do more, but and conversely, or along those
Yeah.
lines, is there something about AI that will actually help attract more people to the field?
Yeah. I also wonder too, Charles, if other fields are changing and AI is being more present, will people turn to fields like social work, psychology, like mental health, because it's actually a human based profession? And so
Good
we might
point.
see actually people coming this way too,
Right.
maybe even teaching or other, human service based jobs. I wonder if that also, and maybe the appeal might be even greater knowing that there are tools like this available to support you in practice. Because, I know in healthcare, the trends in the research are already showing healthcare, education are going to be completely revolutionized with this technology, and it's going to be just embedded. I know already going to the doctor. I went to my dad's surgeon a couple weeks ago. One of the first things that she said in our appointment is, "Oh, I would like to get your permission. An AI scribe is going to be listening in on our session today on your appointment, and we just need your permission because it's going to make a note at the end of the session." So, and I already see that AI is going to be so already embedded in K through
Yes.
12 education um, and also with healthcare. So I wonder if other professions that it's going to be taking over their jobs, really moving out in that space, that maybe people will be turning to the human service professions because it's just going to be integrated and part of our practice. And yet we still need the humans to be a part of this equation of the
Yeah.
work that we do because of that human centered care.
That's an excellent point. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Um, so last, I threatened to come back to the adjunct work that you do.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, yeah, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
How much of
Yes.
that do you do in a given semester? Is it like one adjunct gig a semester, and it just depends on what
Yeah.
university you're affiliated with? How does that work?
Definitely. So a couple things. So yes, definitely a couple of classes each semester because I'm really in this sort of consulting training gig, right? And that's not a 9 to 5 traditional 9 to 5, right? So I definitely need a little bread and butter to keep the lights on. And adjunct teaching certainly has helped with having steady income while I'm trying to build trainings and get bookings for training and consulting. I'm on the journey, right? This, if you're an entrepreneur, you know how this world works, and so it can be up and down. So I'm really grateful for teaching not only as a steady income, but I really truly love supporting the next generation of social workers. And now with the lens of AI, what a really exciting opportunity to be in the space of being innovative. And how can I build out curriculum and courses that are now going to be responsive to the workforce development needs?
Yeah.
And that's been a really exciting space to be in. But how it sort of works is, depending on the course that I'm teaching, like for instance, NYU in the spring, I'm teaching a mental health and AI certificate program course. This will be the first time I'm teaching that in the spring. I'm also teaching at University of Tennessee. This will also be the first time I'm teaching for them in the spring as well, an AI and social work course. But I'll also be teaching at LSU. LSU, I also do a grant writing class for them as well. And it's also based on need and availability of like signups for the course too. So it's kind of like every semester, I kind of know a couple months before, like this is the kind of gig lineup that I got coming up in the fall. And then I'll hopefully, things will come through for the spring, but I really do, or just every term, but I really do like teaching. And AI has helped me be a very proficient, professor as well too, right? A lot
Yeah.
of these skills and strategies that I use in my everyday practice certainly help me as a professor. I build custom GBTs for each of the classes that I teach that
Oh,
have my
neat.
course syllabus, the content that I'm teaching, and it's just a great way to get if students ask me questions, I'm able to just throw into my custom GBT and get responses or content questions. Just have another thought partner to answer them. or I'll also use it to help create discussion posts or get resources and articles for class. I mean, again, it really is my assistant. And that's why I also like to pay for ChatGPT, because I love building custom GBTs, not only for my class, but in my training. So I do a couple of trainings for school districts, for school social workers. So if you are a listener coming from New York City, I do have a New York City Department of Education school social work assistant that's public on ChatGPT, that's built with all of New York City DOE's policies, graduation requirements. So that if you are a school social worker in New York City, you're working with a high school student, you need to create a graduation plan. You pop your question in with the students, their credits, and it's going to build a whole graduation plan based on the knowledge already embedded in it that has a New York City graduation requirement. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say, you know, in
Yeah.
a former life, I did some adjunct
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stuff, and it's fun, and it really is good because you really have to prepare. You got to organize your thoughts, and it's nothing
Mm-hmm.
like teaching to really
Yeah.
have some mastery of the material. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it forces
Mm-hmm.
you to have that level of mastery. You
Yes. No,
know,
I
so
love it. I absolutely
yeah,
love teaching. Yeah.
I'd recommend it to anybody get up in front of a
Mm-hmm.
class, which took me a little bit of doing, but once got over that hurdle, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Marina, I really do appreciate you
Mm-hmm.
spending the time with me today. We're going to have you back a little bit down the road, maybe in the new year.
Please. Yes. Yes, absolutely. You know, this technology is going to be shifting and changing. So I'd absolutely welcome a part two, see where the journey goes and the growth. And I'm just really excited to be in this space and also to have this opportunity to build community with you and chat with your audience as well.
Absolutely. And of course, we made history here on the X Factor by having my first guest who spent at least some significant portion of his or her life in Boca.
Yes.
So this feels very special. It feels very, very,
Thank
very
you.
historic. Marina, thanks so much. I really do appreciate it.
Yes. Take care, Charles.
Today, I spoke with Dr. Marina Badillo-Diaz, who is the founder of the AI Social Worker, where she designs and implements virtual and on-site training workshops for social workers on the use of generative AI and its applications in their work practice. Marina, thanks so much. See you soon.
See ya.